Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete Dad podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be going over finding your why as a hybrid athlete dad. Now, this can pertain to really anyone. Obviously, the title of the podcast is Hybrid Athlete Dad, but if you're just someone that's a hybrid athlete, if you're a hybrid athlete mom, I think you're also going to find value in today's episode. But before I dive into this episode today, it has definitely been a week. I'm recording this episode on a Friday, has definitely been a very long week. And what I mean by that is went through last weekend, everything was going good, went to bed Sunday night, expectation gonna get up Monday morning, gonna go to the gym, gotta run, everything is gonna be normal. Sunday night, my wife wakes up 12 a.m. She has a stomach bug, she's in the bathroom doing her thing, getting sick. So she decides I'm going to go lie on the couch. I'm not going to go back into bed. I'm just going to be closer to the bathroom. At 2:30 a.m., I can hear our daughter crying on the monitor. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up. And she was going through this routine for a little bit where she'd wake up between 3:30 and 4. She'd be crying. We would look at the monitor and she would have her pillow and blanket in hand. And then we would bring her into our bed and then she would sleep for another hour in there. So she was doing that. She was doing that for about the past 2 weeks. I was like, okay, like it's a little early. It's 2:30 versus 3:30 or 4. So I'm gonna take her. I'll bring her to our bed. I got out of bed, and it had to be the worst smell I think I'd ever smelled in my life. Our poor daughter. She had thrown up on herself, and it was all in her hair. It was all over her. She had diarrhea and it was all up her back, all over her stomach. The poor girl. I had to take her. I had to put her in the bath at 2:30 in the morning. Basically, like hose her down and try to help her any way that I can. Brought her back into the bed with me because I wasn't gonna put her back in her crib. There was no sheet on. I had to go and throw all the laundry in at 2:30 in the morning. Brought her into my bed. She stood up once in the bed, threw up all over it. Then again, about an hour later, stood up again, threw up all over it as well. So it was definitely an eventful morning. Knock on wood. I didn't get the stomach bug. I got it probably 4 times in the past year, so maybe thinking like maybe I'm a little bit immune. I'm not sure if that's exactly how that works, but the wife and the daughter, they had the stomach bug. Our daughter had been home with us every single day this week, which definitely made it a lot more challenging, especially with my wife being sick as well, because it was as if my daughter was just sick, my wife would be able to watch her while I go out and do my runs. But with my wife also being sick, I'm obviously not going to have her watch our daughter while I'm going out and doing runs if they're both sick. Like that wouldn't be fair to her, and that's not something that I'm going to do. So this week has definitely been a little bit different of a week. Luckily, my mother-in-law, she came over on Monday for a little bit to watch our daughter. So I was cleaning up the house. I was able to actually go to the gym, and I think I ran 2 miles on the treadmill and then came back home. So I had a quick workout, ran 2 miles, came back home to help take care of everything. Poor mother-in-law, she had caught the stomach bug from our daughter. She was sick for a day or two. A few days ago, actually, I believe it was Wednesday, and recording this on a Friday. She was over on Monday, so it came on pretty quickly. So she ended up being sick from our daughter as well. So Monday ran 2 miles. Tuesday, I want to get up in the morning, go to the gym, but I'm not going to because I want to make my wife's still not feeling that great. I'll get up with our daughter. Luckily, she slept through the night, but I was able to at the end of the day. My wife was definitely feeling a lot better and ended up running 4 miles later in the day, but it definitely made it more difficult than usual because now that our daughter's home, my wife and I, we still have to work obviously during the week, so I was trying to juggle everything. So I ended up running. I will have run every single day this week, Monday through Saturday. Typically, I take Thursdays off, and I was just trying to get my runs in. Honestly, wherever I could get them in. I was still able to get 4 strength training workouts in. Typically, I like to do 5. Just Tuesday, it just wasn't happening with the way that the schedule worked out. And sometimes you just have to make these sacrifices, and things that you're going to deal with as a hybrid athlete, especially if you're a parent where everything's good and then my daughter picks up the stomach bug from daycare and then now you're sick and now you're trying to scramble around and figure everything out else that's going on. So as an example of something that I did today, whereas today's Friday, it's the first day I can like feel as though I can like fully work and get work done this week. And on MLK Day on Monday, I had that off, but typically when I have it off, I will just work on my own company, my little side hustle. So I don't necessarily see it off, but I was a little bit behind on everything now with everything that's going on. So typically Fridays right now I'm doing my long run, so I'll do 8 to 10 miles after I drop our daughter off at daycare and then come back home and work the remainder of the day. So what I ended up doing today was I got up at 4 a.m. I got to the gym. I did my bicep and chest exercises workout, and then I was done with that at 5:40 a.m. And then I did 5 miles on the treadmill. Got done, stretched, and was home by about, I think it was a little bit before 7 at that point. I'm feeling it now, to be honest. Even recording this episode, definitely tired, but I did the 5 miles, and then I'll go out and run 3 miles at some point today, whether that's before work, whether that's after work, and get that done. Because 3 miles, that'll take me like 25, 30 minutes, so it really won't be that bad. I don't want to be out there for an hour 15, hour and a half. Not the most enjoyable splitting it up, but I knew that I had to do it. I knew that I had to make the sacrifices. And even this week, I'll run 5 miles tomorrow, so that'll be Saturday morning. I'll end up at 25 miles for the week, and my goal is 30 miles a week. Usually I'm right at 30 miles or 31, 32, depending on how far I go on my long run. So still satisfied with the 25 miles this week, especially given all the circumstances that were going on. So it's definitely been a week. I'm looking forward to this weekend and just resting, recharging, and then next week, hopefully kicking it back up into high gear and just be back on that normal routine. So that was definitely thrown off a little bit this week. But again, I know previous episodes I've talked about adjusting a schedule. This was a prime example where I definitely had to adjust my schedule based on the circumstances that I was dealing with and making these sacrifices. But also, okay, I can't go on a 5 or 6 mile run today. Let me just go on a 2 or 3 mile run, at least just to get something in if I can't get that full run in. And then knowing, okay, next week I'll go back to running those distances. Again, this is just a 1 week thing. And then something else I wanted to mention that's completely unrelated to this. Unrelated to being sick and running and working out. But I thought that was something I thought was interesting, and I noticed it was as I was training, I would sometimes drink Gatorade when I was done training, and I would use that almost as like a treat for myself. Okay, I ran 10 miles, I can have 10 ounces of Gatorade. Now, I know it's not typically the best for you. I just enjoyed it. It was like a reward for myself. I just burnt off 1,200 calories. I'm not going to worry about having one glass of Gatorade. But what is something I noticed when I was looking at it was what I thought was pretty crazy. And this isn't to harp on it whether you like it or not, but the Gatorade I had was 28 ounces total. That was the full, fluid ounces in it. And it had 38 milligrams of sodium in those 28 ounces, and it comes off as an electrolyte drink. And I was thinking of this, and it's also high in sugar too, where I use the BPN, so Bare Performance Nutrition. I use their electrolytes, and it's 500 milligrams of sodium. I don't think that there's any sugar in it, and I'll just mix the scoop with the water and then shake it up, and I'll have that. But I just thought that was pretty crazy that this 28 ounces of Gatorade has 380 milligrams of sodium versus 500 in this one BPN scoop, and this is just a lot higher quality. Obviously, you're going to pay a little bit more. Honestly, I don't even know if I even paid more, now that I think about it, for this BPN scoop. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for the electrolytes. I might have paid like $1.50 a scoop, and the Gatorade was $2 now at the grocery store. So I just thought that was pretty crazy to see. I think I'm going to lean towards getting rid of the Gatorade completely now, and then just having that 500 milligrams of sodium from BPN, especially when I'm going on these long runs and I'm burning off a lot of sweat, and I just need to replenish those electrolytes that I'm losing. But I thought that was something that was interesting. I was like, wow, I never really checked the label too much of Gatorade, but when I saw how much sodium was in it, I was like, wow, I can use this scoop and get a lot more out of it. Now, I want to get into today's episode, which is finding your why as a hybrid athlete dad. So, our daughter is 19 months. She actually turned 19 months recently. So, if you're hard doing math, she's about a year and a half old. When she was 6 months old, I felt as though I wasn't in the best shape. Going into college, I believe I was like 135. Then I had gone up to 165. I wasn't having the best meals. I was a broke college student and I would have hot dogs and macaroni, cut the hot dog up, put it in the macaroni, have that almost every single night because it was a cheap meal. You could buy the box of macaroni was $1. You could buy a package of 8 hot dogs for $4. And for, that would feed me for the week 2 hot dogs per night, or depending on how, what was going on and what I was eating. Then I got out of college and I ended up just jumping up weight over the last. So I've been out of college. Must be coming up on 6 years now that I've been out, and just started, slowly increase weight. Just really wasn't paying attention to my diet, and jumped up to almost 190 pounds. And I felt as though I just wasn't in the best shape. And this was when my daughter was 6 months old. So it wasn't like my daughter was born. I was like, this come Jesus moment where I was like, I got to fix my entire diet. I got to be better. After having my daughter for 6 months and seeing her, I was like, do I really want to be setting this example of like, we should be eating these types of foods? Because she's going to see what I'm eating, and that's how her diet or how her lifestyle is going to be. I don't know if I necessarily want to be sharing that with what I'm eating with her, where I'm eating like pasta sides, I'm eating a queso, I'm eating high fatty foods, and not like good quality high fat foods where it might be a steak or something along those lines. But I wasn't really sure where to start. It was really just started doing some digging around, and I ended up working with a nutritionist that I had found online to help get my diet in check, and she was phenomenal to work with. I believe I went from almost 190 to 170, 165 ish, around that area, over the course of 2 to 3 months of working with her. And I was working on a big caloric, I don't want to say big caloric deficit, it was just working on a caloric deficit. Typically, on average, if you want to lose a pound a week, you want to have 500 less calories than what you necessarily need, and that'll typically equate to 1 pound of body weight, give or take on how much you're losing. And we were switching up. We were eating better quality foods. We were having more protein in the diet. And this was something that I had never done before. And it was through the nutritionist that she recommended that I start doing more cardio to get in better shape. And for me, it was all about getting in better shape. For my daughter, it was being able to get more fit at this point in time, because I want to be around for a very, very, very long time with her, and not just be around, but being able to be mobile, to being able to hang out with her, to as she gets older, especially now she's like 30 pounds, wanting to pick her up. I just want to make sure that I'm in the best shape for her. So I started doing cardio. I've run through this on past episodes, but it was pretty simple. I started just running 1 mile once on Tuesday, once on Thursdays, I believe, maybe on Saturday. So I was running 3 to 5 miles a week in the beginning. And as I started to do this cardio and get more into it, that's where I found Nick Bare, the founder of Bare Performance Nutrition. That was what I was talking about previously, of using the electrolytes, using their products. And then I started to discover other hybrid athletes that are out there. And then I realized there are people that not only strength train, but they also do some form of cardio, whether that could be biking, it could be swimming, it could be running. If you're a triathlete, it could just be running. For me, I just started off doing the running aspect of it, and there's just a big inspiration from them to not only do the strength training, but also to do this cardio aspect or this endurance aspect of it. And I really saw that as a way that I was going to be in the best shape that I could possibly be. I wanted to be an inspiration for my daughter, just like my dad was for me. He had ran Boston Marathon and other races, and I always remember growing up and thinking when he told me that he ran the Boston Marathon, being like, wow, he ran the Boston Marathon. We're from Massachusetts, so it's a very big deal. Obviously, I would imagine it's a big deal for people outside, but being in Massachusetts, we knew how big of a deal that marathon was, and him running it. I think he ran it in like 3.5 hours, very respectable time, better time than I ran in my first marathon that I did back in the fall. I remember just growing up thinking like that is absolutely amazing. I can't believe he ran 26.2 miles. I don't even know if I knew the distance, but just knowing like a marathon, like that's a long distance. And I just wanted to be that inspiration for my daughter, exactly like my dad was for me. Now I can go around telling people my dad my dad not ran just any marathon. He ran the Boston Marathon. He was a runner, and even to this day, he still goes to the gym. He doesn't do any running anymore as he got older. Just it wasn't working on the knees. It happens to, I would imagine, a lot of people as they get older that they try to do more. Like he's more on the elliptical and the bike than he is on running. But again, I wanted to be the inspiration for my daughter that he was for me. So far this year, my daughter has saw me run 2 5Ks. That's what I just got started in. 2 triathlons. I did a sprint and an Olympic distance. I did a 15K. I did 2 half marathons and a marathon, and she was there for every single one of those, watching me along the way. And I can tell that it's rubbing off on her. This past week, when I'd be getting ready to go run, so I was running at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That was just happened to be the best time when it made sense for me to go out there and try to get my runs in at the end of the day. My daughter would see that I'm putting on, I now have a Gore-Tex or Gore, not sure exactly the name, but I'd say Gore-Tex running jacket. I have a little reflective vest that I wear, and she could see that I was putting on my running clothes, and she'd be over there saying, "Run, Dada, run," and then she would mimic running with her hands. For those watching on YouTube, you can see me mimicking like what she would do with her hands and running and say, "Run, Dada, run," and it's making me realize, just going back to my why, like my why was initially, okay, I want to get in better shape for my daughter. Okay, now I want to push myself in these events. Okay, now I actually want to really do these events and race these events. And that's the next goal that I have, is to start racing these events, not just finishing these events. And I've talked about it in previous episodes where first marathon, I just want to finish this thing. First half marathon, I just want to finish this thing. First half K, I just want to finish this thing. Now that I have those figured out, okay, now next half marathon, I'm going to push myself. And like my half marathon, the 2 half marathons, first one was 2:04, second one was 1:53, and the 1:53 one, that one was 10 times harder than doing the 2:04 one. This one had 600 feet of elevation change. Not sure where you are in the country listening, but that's, for me, that was a lot. The biggest elevation change that I'd have on my runs would be 300 feet up, 300 feet down. So it was double what I had ever done before. But I can really see the influence of being a hybrid athlete is having on my daughter. Obviously, she can't see me. She can't see me at the gym working out. But for now, she can see me running. And again, it just goes back to being that positive influencer, that positive influence for her. And that's always my why, is just trying to be the inspiration for her when I was getting into shape, and then now that's doing these races. I want her to be a hybrid athlete on her own without telling her, similar to what my dad had done for me, where he never told me I have to go start working out at the gym. He was in our basement before he joined the gym, working out at 4:30 in the morning, running on the treadmill. He had all of his dumbbells that are like cast iron, old school, and he would work out there pretty much every morning throughout the week. And again, I could see him working out, and he wasn't telling me I had to work out, but eventually I became very interested in it by seeing him do it over and over and over and over again. And that's exactly what I want to do for my daughter. She is my why behind everything, and at the end of the day, I do not want to let her down. So if you're a hybrid athlete out there, I'd say, what is your why? Is it to be inspiration for your kids? Is it to be inspiration for for yourself to really test your limits to see how far you can go? Is it just to get in better shape because maybe you've let yourself go over the last couple of months or years and you're looking to make that change in yourself? But it's when you find that why within yourself, that's when you end up pushing yourself when it gets tough, like this past week where I don't want to get up at 4 a.m. and go do a strength workout and then run 5 miles just so I can run 3 more miles later in the day. But I do it because I want to be the inspiration for my daughter and share these stories with her that these are the sacrifices I made, and I don't want to make excuses just because it was tough and what was going on. But again, if you're thinking about going down this hybrid athlete route, which for me is just doing strength training and some sort of cardio or endurance training, finding your why is really what's going to allow you to push ahead when the going gets tough.